Hello everyone. So, welcome to today's class. Now, let's get started. So, let me first show you something, okay? Mm. So, you can see this, right? I showed you about how to copy content, okay? So, in space setting, there's another way to copy content. When copying it from somewhere, you'll have to import it again. That means after exporting it, you will need to import it into another Confluence account using different email and password. So here's how. So first, go to the space setting. Okay. Then click on export space. Then select your format, which is the XML format. Then click next. Then after that, choose custom export. Here you can see that. All right. Uncheck the overview and select the specific pages you want, like page num 77, etc. So, uh, then after that, click on export. It will take some time since this will create a zip file of all the selected pages. Once it's done, download the file. I'll save it here in a folder. Now that I have the file, I will log into the account. Okay, sounds good. Then you should use tools like Notepad or Google Keep to store your passwords. Since you are on a different laptop, your saved password may not be accessible. Can you double check and let me know the correct password? Okay. So after that, let me show you how to import the spaces. So for the importing spaces, let me show you how to import a space. Okay. After I logged in, I navigate to the profile and now I will show you the importing space. So here you click on the import space under Confluence administration. Okay. Then choose link to cloud project or space export file. Here you can see that. Then upload the exported XML file from earlier and click on import. So if you see some error during import, it may happen occasionally, but the process is the same regardless. This is how the spaces are copied and imported into a new account. So we have seen how to export and import Confluence spaces and deal with common issues like login errors. Okay. Now, um, for creating Epic, once the backlog is prioritized, the Scrum Master uploads it to Jira. Then epics are created in Jira. So all the stories are pulled into the corresponding epic. Okay, now here you see an email. You can see it. So after organizing stories with epics, the Scrum Master schedules a pre-refinement session. So how an email invitation is sent to all the team members like this. So here you can write, we are excited to invite you to a predefined session focused on enhancing the user experience for a feature or area like add to cart or login functionality. So your valuable input will contribute to the success of this, excuse me, for enhancement. Now, in pre-refinement session, you should refine and discuss the requirements for the user stories under each epic. So here you will see uh, activities like BRS, verification, and discussion. In business requirement specifications is introduced and verified. This includes verifying if the requirements are smart. In discussion, time, priority, and severity of the tasks are discussed. Also, the complexity of the features and potential solutions to enhance the user experience, and facts, risks, and challenges. So here, any corrections and adjustment to the requirements are made. The updated requirements ensure alignment with business objectives. Okay. Then before the pre-refinement session, the Scrum Master assigns business analyst to prepare the BRS for the prioritized stories under each epic. During the session, the team discusses how long it might take, the resources required, and the necessary tools for testing. Okay? Then after the pre-refinement session, the test lead updates the test plan for the first time. The initial draft includes risks, challenges, and other key details identified during this session. Also, here you can see that static testing are not performed during the pre-refinement session. Discussions are limited to requirements, risk, and planning. Also, the Scrum Master manages communication for the pre-refinement session. The sprint doesn't begin until the dates are finalized and epics are organized. So, by organizing it into logical steps and maintaining the original style, the pre-refinement session is complete. Okay. After the pre-refinement session, but before the refinement session, developers and testers work collaboratively to estimate the efforts recognized for completing user stories. So they don't assign stories to individual at this stage. The focus is on calculating the effort for the story as a team. Now, for each user story, for example, registration page, the developers estimate how many story points the task will take. So, for example, here you can assign them the different points for stories. Like there are three developers. Developer one estimates 3 points. Developer two estimates 3 points. Developer three estimates 5 points because they believe additional changes are required, such as modification to the registration button, color schemes, or font size. The developer justify their estimation during the discussion. For example, Developer 3 discusses why 5 points are necessary for the additional efforts. This justification will later be presented in the refinement sessions. Okay, so you can see that after pre-refinement and before pre-refinement, they estimate story points. So after the same time, the QA testers work on the same user story. Tester 1 identifies 10 scenarios for the registration page and estimates 3 points for writing the test case. And tester 2 identifies 15 scenarios for the same story and estimates 2 points. So both testers work independently to identify scenarios and estimate points. There is no discussion on merging on their findings of the uh, findings at this stage. So they work on same user story for the registration. So one says 3 points, another one says 2 points. So after the individual work, the team conducts a walkthrough meeting. Its objective is to combine all identified scenarios and finalize the effort estimate collaboratively. So tester 1 and tester 2 compare their findings. Tester 1 found 10 scenarios and tester 2 found 15 scenarios with 5 overlapping scenarios. They merged their finding to create a comprehensive list of scenarios. After discussing their estimates, they agree on a final estimate. So at this stage, the developers and testers do not know who will work on what. The assignments are made later during the sprint planning. The primary goal is to calculate and finalize the effort estimation for the user story. Now, for justification in refinement session, the developers or testers present their estimates during the refinement session and justify the points if needed. Okay. So, let's say here the developer says he needs 3 points. Another one says he needs 3 points. And the other one says he needs 5 points because we need to modify the font size and select the color scheme. So there are 10 scenarios for this. So after discussion, the team agrees on a specific estimate, like after discussion, like 4 points. Whereas the tester says, I found 10 scenarios and need 3 points, and tester 2 says, I found 15 scenarios and need 2 points. So after merging and discussion, the team decides on an estimate, for example, 5 points. Then what happens next? So the finalized story points are declared during the refinement session. The developers and testers justify their estimates to the product owner if questioned. So what happens between the pre-refinement and refinement sessions? The developers and testers estimate the effort and collaborate on the same user story without assigning it to individuals. Now you can ask me when are story points officially declared? So they are declared during the refinement session, and their purpose of the walkthrough meeting is to align the team's findings, merge scenarios, and finalize the effort estimation collaboratively. Okay, so please let me know if this makes sense or if you have any doubts. I'll clear it to you. So, for understanding the scenarios, suppose scenarios are derived from PRS, which outlines the requirements in detail. This helps us break down requirements into actionable test scenarios and test cases. Whereas a user story is smaller, most focused part of the PRS. For example, as a user, I want to purchase a product so that I can use it properly. This complete user story includes all detailed requirements from the BRS. So for the alignment process, the QA members review and match scenarios direct from the BRS. Any missing scenarios are identified, merged, or re-evaluated to ensure all aspects of the requirement are covered. The final points are discussed and agreed upon during the refinement session. Now, how to estimate the user story point? Story points usually measure the effort, complexity, and time. So, story points are usually the effort, complexity, and time required to complete a user story. These are not measured in exact hours but instead follow an estimation system. So, what system does it follow? If the points follow a Fibonacci sequence. Suppose this is a Fibonacci sequence where the next number is the addition of the previous numbers, okay? Previous two numbers. This method helps manage relief sizing and prevents unrealistic precision in estimation. So there is something to consider for the estimation like complexity, effort, risk, and dependencies. So the complexity like how challenging is the task, the effort like how much work is involved, and there are risks like are there any potential blockers or unknowns, and dependencies like what other tasks does this depend on, etc. Now, handling the user story beyond the Fibonacci series, uh, let me show you an example. So you can see the different uh, task in product backlog. So if the points exceed 8 or 13, a single user story cannot exceed 13 points. If a user story requires more effort, so you should break it into smaller parts. For example, user registration and catalog access have 10 points. So split the stories into two. So the registration is 8 points and catalog access is 2 points. And move part of the work to the next trip is a sprint for shifting the remaining work. Now, how to allocate points per sprint? A sprint typically spans 10 working days, 2 weeks without weekends. So if 1 points equal to 8 hours, then 2 points per day equal to 20 points sprint for a tester. So for example, if the total capacity is 20 points, the assigned task is user story 8 point and the split story 2 point. Unfinished tasks can be moved between sprints if within capacity. Okay. So what are the purpose of the refinement session? The purpose is uh, discuss and finalize details for user story before the sprint. So the key activities of sprint points are story point estimation, effort estimation, resource assignment. So in story points estimation, you estimate the complexity, effort, and dependencies using the Fibonacci sequence. For effort estimation, you approximate the time and resource needed. For these dependencies and roadblocks, you identify any potential blockers or prerequisites for completing tasks. In resource assignment, you assign the tasks to the specific team members. Now, there are some factors considering during the refinement session. Okay, the factors are like complexity, testing, effort, risks, assumptions and roadblocks, dependencies, and resources. So always adhere to the Fibonacci sequence for story point allocation. Ensure the stories are broken down to if they exceed logical points limits. Actively participate in refinement session to contribute to estimates and planning. And stay familiar with agile terminology to effectively communicate during interviews and meetings. Okay. So, effort estimation is about breaking down tasks into smaller subtasks. It identifies who will do it along with effort, dependencies, and assumptions. The key components can be complexity, testing types, roadblocks, dependencies, and resources. The refined user stories, refined user stories with clear points are required for sprints. So the product backlog can be updated if new user stories arise. For example, if business stakeholders request a new features or tweaks, the backlog gets revised. The story cannot enter a sprint until they are refined and assigned story points. So story refinement and points. Only refined stories are with assigned points qualify for sprint planning. A story requiring more than 8 points, which is the Fibonacci sequence limit, are split. For example, a 10 story point become two subtasks, subtasks like 8 point and 2 point. If the requirement change, the test plan must be updated. Okay. So let me show you the sprint plan workflow. So the sprint planning workflow is first we create Epic in Jira. Then we pull all the stories in Epic. Okay. After that, the pre-refinement session is scheduled with email invitation. Then the pre-refinement session, if you need any requirement correction or not, then you create a test plan draft. Then the refinement, like complexity, number of testing user points, roadblocks, decencies, risk assumptions, and resources like who will do it. An effort estimation is uh, occur. Then product backlog can be updated if a new user story comes up in the picture. Then test plan is updated if a new user story is come into the scene. After that, the developer breaks down the subtasks. Then, excuse me, then they understand the requirements, design the product, use coding, unit testing, integration testing, code review, bug fixes, and team meetings happen. Okay. After that, in QA, you understand the requirements, different test scenarios and test cases, then create a test environment, then review the test cases, then execute the test case in both mobile and PC, then analyze the test results, send it to the review unit, and report any bugs if they were found. So the official emails notify the team members on the sprint session. So let me show you how to create version. So what is version? Versions track progress and milestone, like quarterly release. Okay, for example, version 1 starts with sprint 1 on a specific day. To create a version, First, go to the project, in which our case is project BC. Then navigate to the project setting and features. Go to the features. Enable releases under feature. Okay. So enable the releases under feature. Then return to the project dashboard. Then click on the releases and create a version. So here you can see the release button. After clicking, you can type like versions 1.0. Then define the start date and the end date, and add description if you need. Okay. Now, for defining the sprint goal, for example, like the registration and login functionality should be tested, and any defect should be uh, logged. So at first, select the three dotted menu into the sprint name. Then select the edit sprint. Then update sprint name, start date and end date. You can see here. Then edit the sprint goal if you are required to do that. Before starting, confirm all the details like name, start and end date, and cross-check all user stories assigned to the sprint. Now for backlog management, for backlog manage, organize the backlog. Stories can be broken down further for clarity. For example, subtasks for login functionality like create login form, add fields for email and password, validate user credential, test case edges, etc. Additional features like add to cart, search, and my account can also be created. Uh, so backlog stories move to the um, sorry, not this one, this one. Okay. So backlog stories move to the to do, in progress, or done button. Okay. A Scrum Master can drag and drop stories to update the status. Like to do where the tasks are not started, in progress where the tasks are actively being worked on, and done where the task is complete. So here the sprint workflow on Scrum board is first the developer workflow where to do to progress. Drag and drop stories when the developers start working, and in progress to done. Once the development is completed, move stories to the QA column for testing. In the QA tester workflow, QA tester. First, it is QA testing. Test stories in the QA column. If the defects are found, log a defect with a unique ID and create a new story with the defect ID and follow all standard phases like backlog addition, refinement, sprint planning, etc. Then after that it comes to QA done. If no defects are found, move stories to the done column. Okay. Now, additional panels can be created for more clarity, like separate dev and QA panels. Panel can be rearranged by dragging the topmost part. So you can drag each one of them into your preferred position. And panels can be deleted if no longer required. Okay. So the post-sprint activities can be in developers workflow for post-sprint in developers workflow. You can be understanding the requirements. Then you design the documents. After that, coding occurs. Then unit testing. Then integration testing. And the tester's workflow can be understanding the requirements, test scenario and test case preparation, test environmental setup, test case review, test execution, analyzing test results, review by test lead, final review by the product owner and the bug reporting. So you can create sub tasks for larger user stories to break them into actionable tasks. For example, for login functionality, create login form, add input validation for email or password, handle invalid credential errors, perform usability testing. Okay, so we will stop here for today. Uh, in the next session, we will talk about child issue creation, reviewing our test case template, and updating the slide with relevant details. So, till then, you go through this practice and let me know if you encounter any problem. Okay? So, till then, see you in the next class. Take care of yourself.